Internal power struggles. Xi Jinping's own faction is now completely failing to gain the upper hand. The fifth plenum, once widely rumoured for July, is now going to be postponed after all.
After Zhang Yuxia was suddenly attacked, factions inside the Communist Party split apart fast, and right now, Xi still can't get his hands on military power. In this system, the gun has always commanded the party. Once military power slips out of your hands, party discipline starts to loosen right along with it.
Zhang Yuxia and Liu Zhenli are, to this day, still sitting National People's Congress delegates. Under the law, that status has to be formally stripped before any arrest can even happen.
This marks the first time in the history of the US Congress that a formal document brands the Chinese Communist Party a criminal organization, posing a serious threat to global stability and peace. The resolution even names Xi Jinping directly on his own birthday, no less, accusing him of deceiving the entire world, wrecking peace and security, and plotting crimes against humanity.
Bottom line on the fifth plenum, it simply isn't happening in July. That tells you Beijing's top leadership never reached a real deal. The military, the economy, foreign policy, all three fronts feel like they're spinning out of control right now. Hello everyone and welcome to PinnacleView, I'm Xishan. Last weekend the party awarded full general rank to two men, Zhang Shuguang and Wang Gang, partly filling the vacancies that have piled up among the top brass these past few months. The latest word is that the fifth plenum, once widely rumoured for July, is now being postponed. It simply is not happening this month. Right now Xi is facing serious trouble on multiple fronts at once. High unemployment at home, a sinking economy, tension with America that we don't even need to spell out, a falling out with Japan, and now growing friction with Europe on top of all of it. So some analysts think holding a central plenum under conditions like these would actually work against Xi, not for him. Today, we're taking a closer look at where China's political situation stands. Joining us in the studio tonight, veteran journalist Ms. Guo and independent filmmaker Li Jun. Welcome to you both. But first, let's talk about our sponsor. Black Ginseng has long been prized as a precious health tonic, and lately our partner Puritang's Black Ginseng has been getting a wave of great feedback from customers. One Chinese-American customer flew all the way home after his elderly mother's health took a turn for the worse. He stayed by her side and had her drink 2 packets a day of Puritang's traditional 9 times steamed, 9 times sun-dried black ginseng liquid extract. Her energy, her strength, her whole daily routine, all visibly improved. She's not just able to go outside now, she's out walking, even exercising again. Seeing her recover so well, the whole family was overjoyed, so he wrote in to share the story with us. Then there's another customer who just gone through colon cancer surgery. After the operation, her body was weak. She'd even get chills just from taking a shower. But after sticking with Puritang's Black Ginseng, that cold sensitivity improved dramatically. Her appetite came roaring back and her whole mood lifted. Friends started telling her how healthy and rosy she looked. Nothing at all like someone who'd just come through major surgery. Feedback like this really isn't rare. When your body's run down and your energy is depleted, a genuinely top-grade Black Ginseng can recondition you at a deep level and your whole sense of vitality shifts. So the next time you buy Puritang Black Ginseng, remember at checkout to enter our exclusive promo code JYLT, the initials of PinnacleView in Chinese pinyin, and you'll enjoy free worldwide shipping on us. On top of that, there are gifts with every purchase. Spend $500 and you'll get a free root of Black Ginseng thrown in. Spend $3,000 and if the batch allows, you'll even get a premium grade root on top of that. This is a genuinely rare deal. If you've been thinking about it, don't let this chance slip by. Now let's turn to Ms. Guo. Word has it the fifth plenum can't actually happen in July after all. What's driving that? How do you read the situation?
I think it comes down to this. After Zhang Yuxia was suddenly attacked, factions inside the party split apart fast, and it inflamed a lot of underlying tensions. Right now, the different factions simply can't reach a deal, a power-balancing agreement. Xi had originally hoped to use a military purge to crush his rivals. The thinking was, if he could grab military power back in time, he could walk into a July 5th plenum on the front foot. But that's not how it played out. After Xi's stroke at the third plenum in June 2024, he lost his grip on the military. Zhang Yuxia, backed by elders like Hu Jintao and Wen Jiabao, took it back, but now Zhang's had a stroke too. Then, on January 20th, after Zhang Yuxia and Liu Zhenli were suddenly attacked at the party school, Xi made a push to grab back military power as fast as he possibly could. But resistance from the National People's Congress, the CPPCC, and factions across the party made that route impossible. At the fourth plenum, every single Central Committee member showed up, and still, Xi couldn't retake control of the military. So starting April 8th, he began summoning military brass to Beijing en masse for a training program, rolling out 26 new rules, restricting the power of theatre commanders and service chiefs, even placing their own family members under tight control. Think about it. If you're already a supreme commander with real power in hand, presiding over a stable command, why would you ever need to go this far? At the April 8th opening session, Xi showed up in person, and training ran all the way through to June 16th before it finally wrapped up, a bit over 2 months, roughly.
A bit over 2 months.
Right, about 10 weeks straight, front to back. Training the top brass for that long is almost unheard of since the party came to power. Outsiders read it as a warning shot squarely aimed at Zhang Yuxia and Liu Zhenli, rattling the mountain to scare the tiger, as the saying goes. Xi had hoped this military shake-up would push his rivals down and let him seize the initiative going into a July 5th plenum. Clearly that hasn't worked out. At the April 8th opening ceremony, only 3 full generals stood at Xi's side. Eastern Theatre Commander Yang Zhibin was the one conspicuously absent. Every senior general out there is now watching his own back. Yang Zhibin and Central Theatre Commander Han Shengyan are now deliberately avoiding showing up at the same event together. Watch military news footage from these past few months closely, and you'll notice the two of them are almost never in the same frame. After 10 full weeks of training, it looks like Xi still hasn't actually secured military power. And those harsh 26 rules haven't produced any real reaction either. No pushback, no compliance. Everyone just quietly goes on doing their own thing. By the June 10th closing ceremony, it was CMC Vice Chairman Jiang Shengmin presiding over the whole thing again. Xi didn't even show up to his own closing ceremony. For an event this size, you'd expect him to attend. It opened with a loud bang and ended in a quiet whimper.
Fizzled right out.
Right, and on this latest round of promotions, Zhang Shuguang and Wang Gang, the 2 newly minted full generals. Zhang Shuguang comes up through the old army establishment, and he's considered part of Zhang Yuxia's camp. Wang Gang, on the other hand, has an Air Force background, with deep, long-standing ties to the network Hu Jintao left behind in the military, so this move fills the Air Force commander post that had sat vacant for a long time.
You mean Wang Gang? Wang Gang, right? He used to be a senior Air Force general, then acting commander. And it looks like this time it's finally been made official. Made it official, yeah.
He was made acting commander under Zhang Yuxia. Neither man is really Xi's own. His grip on the military stays weak, and things only get more precarious from here. In this system, the gun has always commanded the party. Lose your hold on the military, and party discipline starts loosening right along with it. Looking at it from that angle, Xi is now clearly failing to close a final deal, not with the Hu Jintao and Wen Jiabao camp, not with the conservative faction led by Zheng Qinghong, and not with the princelings either. Which is exactly why this July's 5th plenum clearly cannot happen.
Right. And it's obvious. We know what's going on with the military. What we're seeing is that across basically every theatre command, every service branch, even among some of the CMC's own senior generals, the full generals have almost entirely disappeared. A handful of lieutenant generals might still be standing. And we're seeing this play out directly inside that senior commander training program. This is clearly a mass purge. This isn't an ordinary clean out. This is a genuine sweeping purge. So, Ms. Guo, would you say that means in this internal struggle, Xi's own faction is now completely failing to gain the upper hand?
That's right. People like Chen Xi and Wang Xiaohong both have cases hanging over them now. Xi's entire power base runs through the Fujian faction. It's the load-bearing pillar of his whole structure. And on the military side of that faction, the 31st Army has completely collapsed. On the party and government side, core Fujian faction figures like Chen Xi and Wang Xiaohong are now caught up in cases of their own, and Cai Qi is starting to get sidelined as well. Take Chen Xi, he's reportedly already under house arrest and under investigation. He was Xi's Fujian faction kingmaker, essentially his chief strategist, his head of personnel, if you want to put it that way. Practically every personnel appointment Xi has made over 14 years runs through him in some way. And that matters because Zhang Yuxia and Liu Zhenli were reportedly attacked at the Central Party School on January 20th. So, Now the Discipline Commission's Liu Jingguo wants to squeeze Chen Shi for leads that expose problems inside the whole Fujian faction. Meanwhile, Wang Xiaohong is also under investigation by the Commission's own inspection team embedded inside the Ministry of Public Security over Southeast Asian scam compounds, money laundering, dirty cash and private armed groups, all deeply sensitive territory.
On top of that, Tsai Chi's own core deputies within the Fujian faction are getting sidelined too, and the person now under investigation is a genuine heavyweight, right? And yes, I've heard there's now talk that the relationship between Chen Shi and Tsai Chi has turned very sour, right? So at this point, both sides are being punished equally, arrests happening on both ends, and Chen Shi's already been pushed out of his post. Take Li Ganjie, he used to head the organization department under Chen Shi and was set up to succeed him. But last year, or the year before, he swapped posts with Shi Taifeng, moved out of organization and over to the United Front Work Department instead, so he's already been effectively sidelined. So this time, Wei Xiaodong has gotten swept up in it too, which suggests both camps may have run into real trouble here, at least according to what some people are saying.
Still, whatever happens, Xi remains the top dog, and he's not going to do anything that undermines his own foundation, because in a shake-up like this, he'd end up the one who loses the most. There are more and more people right now trying to paper over problems inside the Fujian faction because it's genuinely under siege from every direction, with Chen Shi, Wang Xiaohong and Wei Xiaodong all falling one after another.
Right, Li Jun, I want to bring you in here. How do you see this whole fifth plenum situation playing out? What's your take on it?
For a while there, word going around was that it would happen in July, right? Then, right on the heels of that, a wave of leaks started pouring out. What kind of leaks? Claims that Zhang Yuxia's case was about to be closed out and handed off to the judiciary. After that, all sorts of leaks started flooding the internet, claiming Zhang Yuxia was tied to massive corruption. Some said a Beijing telecom firm, a listed company connected to him, had cooked its books to the tune of over 200 billion yuan. Others said he'd personally borrowed 1.7 billion. Others said 10 billion. Whatever the number, that implies a death sentence.
Right, cross $1 billion, and that's a death sentence.
Exactly, because that crosses the so-called life or death line for corruption, 100 million yuan. Under normal circumstances, for the sake of the party's image, officials publicly admit to only a small fraction, a few tens of millions, maybe 100 or 200 million at most. So if the official announcement goes above $1 billion, that's essentially a public death warrant. For a while there, online chatter got fierce over this, and I think what's actually happening is that Xi's own camp is leaking this to shape public opinion in his favor. But then, at the late June National People's Congress session, they suddenly stripped 6 generals of their delegate status all at once. 3 lieutenant generals, 3 full generals, and 5 more full generals simply went missing, never showing up for the NPC Standing Committee session. 11 generals caught up in trouble in total. And yet, on that processed list of 11 names, Zhang Yuxia and Liu Zhenli's names are still nowhere to be found. In other words, both of them remain sitting NPC delegates to this day. And under the law, before you can make an arrest, you first have to strip that delegate status, which means right now, this July, Zhang Yuxia simply cannot be handed over to the judiciary, because handing him to the judiciary means arresting him. That's literally what a judicial handover requires. So I think Zhao Leiji is genuinely running out of patience at this point. Neither side is willing to give the other face anymore. They've both dug their heels in, and their patience has already run out. So Xi's camp keeps hyping up a July judicial handover, and the NPC simply isn't buying any of it. There may not even be an NPC Standing Committee session in July at all. It doesn't meet every single month. Then August brings the Beidai-He retreat. At this rate, Zhang Yuxia's delegate status won't get touched until September or October at the earliest. That alone would break the record. He Weidong went from official announcement all the way to being taken down in about 3 months. His NPC status only lasted 3 months too. Miao Hua's case took roughly 4 or 5 months. And keep in mind, He Weidong was a CMC vice chairman too, so for Xi, he was absolutely counting on nailing down Zhang Yuxia before the 5th plenum, just to have something concrete to show the party for it. Right now, it looks like Zhang Yuxia simply won't confess and won't cooperate at all. Nobody even knows for sure if he's still alive. And even though public rumors already put his corruption past 10 billion, he clearly isn't admitting to any of it. He's a battlefield veteran who literally crawled out of a pile of corpses. Getting a man like that to bow his head to Xi? I really don't think that's going to happen.
Right, so I actually asked a few friends about this, and they told me the investigation into Zhang Yuxia and Liu Zhenli genuinely can't be closed out. Can't close it out at all. And why not? Because investigators going out to the localities keep running into non-cooperation everywhere. So whoever refuses to cooperate simply gets removed from their post. And that's exactly why he can't lock down the military. It's stuck right there at that exact problem. But look, they just promoted 2 brand new full generals. What do you make of that move?
Xi abruptly rolled out 2 new two full generals. One is the new CMC Discipline Commission Secretary, Zhang Shuguang. The other is the new Air Force Commander, Wang Gang. Right, the two already stood with Dong Jun and Han Shengyan at the July 1st events. Meaning this was decided before July 1st. Both were already locked in.
They'd effectively already been promoted in practice because both the Discipline Commission Secretary post and the Air Force Commander post require full general rank by definition. So this was bound to happen sooner or later.
He couldn't have stood in that lineup otherwise. Standing there without holding the rank would have been a real breach of protocol. At the actual promotion ceremony, Xi looked like he was putting on a face for the cameras. Clearly reluctant about the whole thing, when everyone applauded, he barely managed to squeeze out a smile and clap a couple of times. And the ceremony itself was unusual. Zhang Shengmin ran the entire event by himself, with not a single other full general in attendance, which is genuinely abnormal. Every past promotion ceremony like this has always had full generals and some lieutenant generals show up to lend their support. So what happened this time? Not a single one showed up. You could argue Yang Jibin and Han Shengyan have an excuse, say they're too far away, tied up running their own theater commands, too busy to make it. But Dong Jun is right there in Beijing. He's the defense minister himself. A promotion to full general is a huge deal. Why wouldn't he show up to support it? And not showing up matters because on one hand, it's about the current generals, but more importantly, it makes Xi look genuinely bad in front of everyone. Because across the entire event, with two newly promoted generals added in, that's only 3 full generals total. In the group photo, just 4 people stood there. A thin, sorry-looking turnout. People pulled out old photos to compare, and honestly, it doesn't hold up at all. So the fact that the other 3 full generals simply didn't show up, doesn't that make Xi look bad too? Almost as if it were deliberate? And on top of that, none of the more senior, heavyweight lieutenant generals were spotted at the event either. State media only reported that personnel from the Beijing garrison attended, which frankly sounds like a stretch dressed up to sound impressive. As for these 2 new generals, I honestly wouldn't call either of them Xi's own true loyalists, since Zhang Shuguang comes up through the Discipline Commission track, groomed all along by Zhang Shengmin, and he's from the old-line army establishment too. He's been grooming him a long time. It's finally paid off. Zhang Shengmin becomes the CMC vice chairman overseeing political work. Honestly, I don't even think Zhang Shengmin is truly Xi's confidant. Because think about it, if Xi actually trusted him, when he moved against Zhang Yuxia, he'd have let Zhang Shengmin's own Discipline Commission handle it, instead of having Wang Xiaohong break protocol to make the arrest. The military discipline body should have been the one to act. If Zhang Shengmin were genuinely your own man, that's who you'd send in to make the move. That would have been the smooth, natural way to handle it. Everything falls right into place. Instead, Xi still doesn't fully trust Zhang Shengmin either. And honestly, you can read that right off how this whole thing played out. Let's joke about it for a second. Xi arrested one bow-wielding Zhang Yuxia and out-popped another bow-wielding Zhang Shengmin, and now a third one's been born too, bow-wielding Zhang Shuguang. 2 bows now, count them, 2.
Let me ask Ms. Guo right now, the general's actually running things for the party number about 6 people, right? Besides Zhang Shengmin and Dong Jun, there's Han Shengyan and Yang Jibin, and then these 2 just promoted men on top of that. So could these same 6 people end up forming the next Central Military Commission lineup, do you think?
Not necessarily. They don't even appear together, which is sad. Since 2 of them ambushed a colleague, no one trusts anyone. So you'll notice this pattern. At every major event, these generals with real troops under their command are never in the same frame together. Nobody saw the Zhang Yuxia affair coming, and that trust once broken doesn't come back. From here on, it'll be very hard for any of them to trust each other again, and everyone keeps one hand guarding their own back.
So the rumor going around online that Yang Jibin hasn't been seen in public for quite a while now, is that actually true?
That's right. General Yang Jibin, the Central Theatre Commander, genuinely hasn't been seen in public for a long stretch. As we already mentioned, plenty of analysts think he's deliberately avoiding appearing together with Han Shengyan to prevent another ambush like the one that hit Zhang Yuxia and Liu Zhenli. If the CMC adds these 2 new generals, that's 4 exposed at once. Training commanders like this takes years.
Everyone says the US military is deadly at decapitation strikes. Turns out Xi's even better at it.
He didn't make a sound and just quietly did it. Back on April 8th, when Xi attended the opening of that first senior officer training class, only 3 full generals accompanied him at the event, and Yang Jibin himself was the one who was absent. As one of only 4 active full generals in the entire military at that point, skipping an event that's sensitive really only leaves 3 possible explanations. Maybe he'd been purged. No, actually he hadn't been. Maybe a health issue or an urgent assignment. No one's ever confirmed which it actually was. What's clear now is that everyone's essentially agreed not to appear together, specifically to prevent an assassination attempt on Xi. So just from that, you can see exactly how shaken military morale really is right now. Going back further, since Zhang Yuxia and Liu Zhenli were seized, nearly every general has been swept away. The CMC has shrunk from 7 members in 2022 down to just Xi and Zhang Shengmin, proof the military doesn't submit. Mid to senior military officers are broadly deeply unhappy with Xi. If everyone were actually satisfied, there'd be no need for an operation this drastic just to purge the very loyalists he personally promoted in the first place. He Weidong, Miao Hua, Lin Xiangyang, all personally promoted by Xi, and all fell one after another. This isn't really an anti-corruption drive at all. This is a self-inflicted collapse after a total internal breakdown of trust.
Including Zhang Yuxia, he's also a relative of his.
He really is his relative, and honestly, the whole reason he was able to get reappointed at all was Zhang Yuxia backing him up.
And if you compare that to Jiang Shengmin, Zhang Yuxia's ties to him run far closer and far more solid than that.
Right, so is the future Central Military Commission really going to be just these 6 people? Zhang Shengmin, Dong Jun, Han Xingyan, Yang Zhibin, plus the newly promoted Zhang Shuguang and Wang Gang? My take, this is a transitional makeshift lineup, just filling out the head count. What Xi needs is a base genuinely loyal to him, one that can withstand doubts across the military. And right now, among these 6 people, there isn't a single one he's genuinely fully at ease with. This trust crisis inside the military is nowhere near over.
Which is exactly why the 5th plenum simply can't happen under these conditions.
The 5th plenum is supposed to be a report card, a chance to signal political direction. But the economy looks worse every year. Localities keep begging the centre for bailouts, and the centre itself is cash-strapped. Forcing a plenum now would dump this mess in front of the whole party, giving elders and the Hu Wen camp more grounds to question his ability to govern. Look at it this way, he can't control the military, he can't prop up the economy, and he can't strike a power balancing deal with the party's various factions. Put all of that together at once and the 5th plenum simply can't happen. What this system fears most isn't outside pressure at all. It's this internal collapse of trust, playing out at the same time across the military, the economy, and the party's own factional lines.
You know how this works. A plenum is supposed to open as a unity meeting, a victory meeting. If it can't be either one, then honestly, why even bother opening it at all? Back during the Cultural Revolution, 12 or 13 years dragged by between the 8th and 9th Party Congresses, precisely because there was no path forward, no unity, no victory. So what did they do about it? They simply didn't hold it. Mao didn't hold a Congress throughout the whole Cultural Revolution either. They held off all the way until 1969. We all know there's plenty going wrong domestically. Let me ask Ms. Guo. Foreign relations look pretty rough too. Even the relationship with America seems to be running into trouble. Is that part of the calculation here? Is Xi trying to smooth things over with Washington first before reopening this plenum?
The relationship with America is obviously the most important one at play here. And under these conditions, can the 5th plenum even happen? Given how deep the internal split runs, and with the fight still raging fiercely, there's no deal to point to, which means there's no victory meeting, no unity meeting to hold. For Xi, that's a genuine disaster, and he'd rather push it back further. Our best guess is it gets pushed to October, maybe November, because Xi genuinely wants to patch things up with the US now that Trump is back in office, and a state visit is expected sometime around September, right? Right, but whether Xi can actually pull off a successful visit is still very much up in the air. It's still under negotiation because so much has changed since Trump came back from his own trip to China. The two sides had originally agreed on 3 years of no more turbulence, a stable strategic partnership going forward. But after that, on June 16th, the US Senate passed, unanimously and by a full vote, what's now known as Resolution 444, the first time in Senate history that a formal document defines the Chinese Communist Party as a criminal organization posing a serious threat to global stability and peace. The resolution even names Xi Jinping directly on his own birthday, accusing him of deceiving the entire world, wrecking peace and security and plotting crimes against humanity, and it urges sanctions on Chinese officials under the Global Magnitsky Human Rights Accountability Act. This isn't just verbal condemnation anymore. This is a formal political document from the US Senate, one that the European Parliament and legislatures around the world will now be citing going forward. It's essentially stamping an official seal on the claim that the CCP is a criminal organization. Second development, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the ODNI, acting under an intelligence authorization law that took effect back in December, has been compiling a report headed for Congress, expected to be released by the end of this year. It's set to expose the personal wealth, financial assets and business interests of Xi Jinping himself, along with 6 other Politburo Standing Committee members, and he's even said it could extend to hidden fortunes belonging to all 25 Politburo members. For Xi and the entire Standing Committee, that's essentially a ticking time bomb. The US set up a task force targeting scam compound financiers, DOJ, FBI, Treasury, IRS. This February, they froze $580 million in crypto. In April, over $700 million more. On the surface, this targets Cambodia's scam compounds, but the money trail leads back to Fujian faction protection networks inside public security, even to Xi's own family wealth operation. And that's exactly why this past June 23rd, the US sanctioned the Huoyoni Group and its cloud infrastructure. It's essentially a payments platform. Then they escalated with sanctions on the Prince Group. That same week, the ODNI's own office also signalled it would release these officials' asset details by year's end and put those two moves together, and it clicks. This was really aimed at Cambodia's scam compounds and at Cambodia's former leader, Hun Sen, specifically. Which is why he rushed to Beijing to beg Xi for help, really targeting Xi and China. So this year, for America's founding anniversary, Trump delivered two major addresses, one on July 3rd at Mount Rushmore, another on July 4th on the National Mall, marking 250 years of independence, and he used extremely harsh language in both, describing communism as a cancer that has to be completely cut out. He said communism killed 100 million people last century alone, calling it the enemy of the free world in his own words. Both speeches were mainly aimed at National Socialist currents at home, domestically. But the communism label and the CCP's ideological label are essentially the same signal, aimed at someone we don't need to spell out. So put all of this together and you realise the US-China relationship has basically turned hostile at this point. Back in May, when Trump visited Beijing, he even invited Xi to pay a return visit to Washington. But ever since then, it's been one tough move against the CCP after another, which tells you Beijing's plan to trade a friendly diplomatic moment for some breathing room simply hasn't panned out. It hasn't genuinely won Washington over at all, so can Trump and Xi actually meet as planned in September? There's still a lot of uncertainty there, with the 21st Party Congress now just over a year away, and regional Congress delegate elections set to begin by year's end. The clock is running short. Xi has to squeeze through this narrow window while handling a domestic crisis on both the military and economic fronts, fending off escalating outside pressure from a defiant Washington, and still brokering a personnel deal across every faction inside the party. Fighting a three-front war like that puts him at a real disadvantage. Can he even secure another term at this point? So that's a genuinely huge variable hanging over everything right now. And of course, the fifth plenum itself is an important thing to keep watching. The fact that it's already being delayed tells you right there that Xi hasn't got things locked down yet.
Right, exactly. So the fifth plenum simply isn't happening in July. That tells you Beijing's top leadership never actually reached a real deal. The military, the economy, foreign policy, all three fronts feel like they're spinning out of control right now. And that's an enormous amount of pressure bearing down on Xi. And the crucial point, as Ms. Guo just laid out, is that the US no longer treats the Chinese Communist Party as an ordinary competitor at all. What used to be framed as tough but healthy competition is now being framed as a criminal organization threatening world order, flatly a hostile force. Internal power struggles and outside pressure are escalating together. With the 21st Congress ahead, this is an extremely dangerous, unpredictable political window for Beijing. We'll be watching right along with all of you to see exactly what happens next. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much to both of our guests, and thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.